Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio. Ours is a place where dreams take flight, voices are heard, and stories are shared. This is where cultures meet, connections are formed, and ideas are transformed into action. This is your destination for authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations. We're where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover our world of education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our USA Global TV channel and download our USA Global TV app. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. With heartfelt thanks to our executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, music scored by Yifei Tang from Cloud Road Music, creative direction by Paul Garcia, and I'm Al Cini, and I'm very proud to be part of the USA Global TV and Radio family. So join us here at USA Global TV and Radio. Make us your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication, or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited. Thank you for being a part of our global community. Let's inspire together.
Brett Laughlin here. We're on Talking Heads on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. And today my topic is on stress. I'm writing a book called Aging Sucks. It's coming out this summer. And last week I talked about diet, health, and aging. Today we're talking about stress, health, and aging. Each of these are topics that we'll be going into a lot of detail in the book. But let me go ahead and get my slides loaded up here. There we go. We are live streaming on Amazon Fire, E360 TV, YouTube, Android TV, social media, and many more. All of my shows are for awareness and education, and I'll go in a little bit more detail about that in the show. I can be found at my website, redolaughlin.com. That's red like the color, R-E-D, O'Laughlin, O-L-A, U-G-H-L-I-N, redolaughlin.com. All my contact information there, and there's 6 of the 8 books that I've written. Stress, health, and aging. They can be found on YouTube, on the USA Global TV and Radio Network, both the live shows, archive shows. I think we're up over 100 shows a month, not 100, up over 60 shows a month that are available. You go to usaglobaltv.com and see what's in there and see if there's something that you are interested in. I'm involved in root cause analysis. I have been for many, many years. However, I take my specific skill level in cellular chemistry and biology with regard to what's happening in the human body. So I go down to the human body at the cellular level and I look, okay, what's going on? What can we do to speed things up, slow things down? But I take that information, I translate it so that people can act on it. I give them decision data. They can go to their doctors and say, hey, doc, or to their pharmacist or to their nutritionist and say, what do you think about this? I try to focus on what helps, but I also make people aware of what can make things worse. I consider myself an author of decision support manuals, primarily for aging, but I'm also a translator of complexity, especially in the human body. I'm a researcher, not medical, never been in the medical or pharmaceutical fields. My first degree is in chemistry. I have 5 academic degrees, a bunch of professional certifications, mostly in the areas of quality assurance, reliability engineering, and logistics engineering. Spent 31 plus years in the Navy, 16 years flying, naval flight officer, retired as a Navy captain, got invited to Vietnam during the beginning of my career, got invited to Bosnia at the end of my career. I look at cause and effect relationships. Why? Because if you can treat the cause, you generally expect to have some level of effect. But if you're treating symptoms, yeah, you may feel better, look good, but it's not addressing the cause, which could get worse, and that's a big deal. In about 4 months, my wife and I will be married 58 years, a couple kids, 3 grandkids, and our first great grandson turned 2 at the beginning of this year. Best-selling author of several books, published over 4 dozen. I'm a distinguished Toastmaster, writer, lots and lots of, in fact, I just wrote my first blog now in over a couple years. Lots of reasons why, not going into it now. International TV host on the USA Global TV and Radio Network, and probably my biggest my number one joy over the last year, in addition to all the other stuff that I have up there, is most valued team player on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. Last year in 2025, I was number 3 host. I have already written a book called Longevity Secrets for Healthy Aging. However, that's the book I'm expanding with Aging Sucks. I'm taking that book and actually blowing it up exponentially and giving you a lot more detail than I ever had before. The information today and in all my books is for educational purposes only. And moving right along here. Disclaimer. Today in all my talking head presentations are for education and information. Just mention that it's interesting. Sometimes somebody hears something and they just take it for action. Well, if you're on a prescription med or you're under doctor's care for something, don't jump at something. Yes, it's nice to know something might work, but go talk and find out what can and can't be done. Most of them are generally pretty good about listening to their patients. So my information does not constitute medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Anything I reference as far as compounds or whatever is strictly in a research context. And again, please consult qualified medical professionals about your particular health issue. Okay, let's kind of get into this thing today. My book, Aging Sucks, is my next book. A couple, 3 months, it'll be out. I have a webinar series planned also that will be talking about aging, health, disease, and various aspects of our body. Aging doesn't have to suck, but most of us believe it does. I mentioned this to people. I got this book coming out, and I think maybe 1 out of 10 will say, no, I don't think aging sucks. But almost everybody else will say, yeah, it does. So it's interesting, people's view on that. Aging involves a lot of interactions. It really does. And stress is one of them. But stress affects our biology and increases our molecular damage. A couple, 3 weeks back, maybe longer than that, I talked about aging as a factor of damage accumulation in the body and our body's ability to repair that damage. And so long as we can repair the damage, we are ahead of the curve on getting older, looking older, feeling older, being older. But at the minute that our damage starts to accumulate faster than our bodies can repair it, now we start going down that slippery slope that's very difficult to get back. I started looking at how do I want to talk about this thing today. Stress is kind of an interesting topic because you tell somebody, hey, you look a little stressed out. Oh, no, I'm not. And they get very defensive about it. So I did a little research on it. And, when you start getting stressed, you start getting burned out. And burned out is, from your boss, from your coworkers, from your actual work itself. And if you look at various things, anywhere from 1/3 to literally 90% of people, depending on what industry you're in, are burned out, or they're showing signs of burning out, or they're right there at that cusp. And so part of the problem on stress is the fact that we don't recognize it. We don't believe that we're stressed. And we take that stress home, it accumulates, and we're there, and we just can't get rid of it. So I looked at, Sun Tzu, I looked at Confucius, and all of them going back thousands of years. They all are the same. It's just that we have to realize that we have to improve ourselves, and part of that self-assessment. Part of our self-assessment is how is stress affecting us? And I'm going to go into a lot of detail about that. But Julius Caesar had a saying, men are nearly always willing to believe what they wish. And so, again, if they don't know what stress is, they're going to believe it. And same thing, Bill O'Reilly, you hear this all the time on his TV show. People believe what they want to believe. Whether you're a conservative, a Democrat, doesn't matter. You believe what you want to believe. And so when you start looking at what are our belief systems drive our conduct and our habits. And our conduct and our habits drive our health, our aging, and basically our longevity and our ability to really enjoy life at the end of our lives. Our belief systems, they start early in life from family and friends, church and school, our social circles, and then we start getting personal experiences, and then a lot of events, like 9/11 for one, or in my case growing up, President Kennedy was shot. Just those little snippets just there. We have a lot of exposure to stuff. Stress influences our lives all the time, 24/7. Most of us are unaware that the stress actually affects various things in our body. Now, aging is not time passing. We just, from age 55 to 60, that's aging. It's time passing. But during that same time, it's damage accumulating in the body. And if it's not repaired, then that damage accumulates and you start getting those wrinkles. You start looking older. You start feeling fatigued all the time. Lots and lots and lots of things are there with that aging process. So stress is a major, major, major contributor. It's also our primary survival system. It's a short-term survival. We've heard the expression fight or flight. Technically, it's called the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. It's our body's built-in alarm system. Originally, it was our escape mechanism that, you turn around the corner and there's a saber-toothed tiger or whatever danger is there, and where you have the ability to respond to danger. You see TV shows and somebody standing on a railroad track and a train's coming, okay, they get off. But some people, they don't have the ability to get off the track. They can't respond to danger. But this built-in escape system gives us that extra adrenaline, extra everything to do physically things that we thought were impossible. So from a sudden physical effort, it works well. But stress activates a lot of things: adrenaline, cortisol, glucose, inflammation. And for short bursts of time, it's great. But for long, healthy life, it's not. So we have good stress and we have bad stress. It's called acute and chronic. Exercise, exposure to cold, deadlines at work, competition. All of these are good short-term stressors. They're acute stressors. You turn them on, they're on, they happen to us, but we can turn them off. If you study for a test, you got the deadline, you go take your test, fine. That stress of preparing and taking the test is over with. You compete against somebody, you come in third, you come in first, whatever it is, it's over. Yeah, you may go back and what could I have done better? But these are short-term exposures and they get turned off. That stress is no longer with us. Chronic stress never turns off, and that's the killer. That's the part that really affects our health, much more so than anything else. And it's a major danger in our aging processes. We have financial pressures, sleep. Sleep is a good clue. If there's something going on in your life and you keep thinking about it when you're trying to go to sleep, that is a clue. That is something you need to address, because that is the thing right now in your mind that's a major factor. That's a problem. Constant digital stimulation, whether that, you pick up the phone in front of you and you're like this all day long looking at that phone. There are just so many things there that affect the brain, that affect our stress levels. You read something, news, 24/7, whatever. News affects us. We get upset about things we see. We end up with chronic illness, emotional strain, biological wear and tear over time. Chronic stress affects our brain, our immune system, our hormones, our metabolism, our cardiovascular system. All of that is linked to aging. Now, we may think about the stress because sometimes we can see it, we can almost feel it, and we go out and exercise, I feel much better. So notice we can actually feel some of that time when we let things go. But again, it's cumulative from the chronic perspective, chronic stress perspective. And it's linked to a lot of different things: diabetes, depression, dementia, just to mention a few. My dad, generally speaking, he always was of the opinion that he gave out stress to others. He was not affected by it. Well, my dad was a Navy chief petty officer for 17 out of 20 years during World War II and the time after that. And so his mindset as being a chief petty officer in charge of a whole bunch of people, he was giving stress all the time because it's a training exercise. And I'm the oldest of 9 kids, so we had stress at the house all the time because he was the father. And I could go into all sorts of other stories, but it's not. The whole thing is there. Our mindset sets us up for things. If we believe that we don't get stressed, that is a big mistake. And there's a lot of people out there that believe that, that doesn't bother me. Well, it does, because it just incrementally it builds up 24/7. It ages us biologically. And when you start looking at the hallmarks of aging, stress is a factor in many of those. And so in my book, Aging Sucks, I'm going to be going into the hallmarks of aging, the hallmarks of health, and aspects of how pathways of disease are created. And so if I look at the hallmarks of aging, stress is a factor. So if I can address my stress, I'm addressing some primary aspects of the aging process. So There's one hallmark called genetic instability, basically DNA damage. That happens 24/7. If our immune systems are good enough and we're eating the right kind of stuff, yeah, we take care of that. Telomere attrition. At the bottom of our DNA, there's a telomere. Every time that cell replicates the DNA, it loses a little bit. So they shorten them. So stress causes a faster shortening process. Mitochondrial dysfunction. Basically, our mitochondria, the part in our cell that produces energy that we live, breathe, eat on, it starts to decline. Part of normal aging process. Inflammation. Chronic low-level cellular inflammation is a cause of literally almost every single disease out there. Dysregulated nutrient cycling, again, another hallmark. Our metabolic signals that talk from one cell to another are not necessarily working the way they used to. Maybe the information going out is not the same. Maybe along the pathway, it gets changed. Maybe the right signal gets to the final destination, but it's not interpreted correctly. Lots of things happen when you're looking at this dysregulated nutrient cycling. Stress ages us faster than just about almost anything else. Take a look at presidents before they get into office and take a look at them afterwards. I mean, you see a major day in life. And I went back and I looked at about 10 or 12 presidents just to reinforce my presentation today. And you get some people there that, my goodness, they aged so quickly. And this was a factor, I think, back when I was a kid, you could see that. But it's, I think, more and more evident. And it's not only a psychological aging, it's a physical, it's a mental, it's a metabolic. I mean, right down to the cellular level. We have work pressures, we have family relationships, a lot of anxiety, illness, toxins in our foods, toxins in our personal care products, our diet options that we choose, the quality of our sleep, obesity, mood changes. It goes on and on and on and on. Just lots and lots of things cause stress. Well, in some cases, they cause the stress. In some cases, the stress is being exacerbated in the body because of hormone disruptions and other things. Obesity being one of the metabolic changes. So, but the disease is typically associated with chronic stress or cardiovascular disease, metabolic syndrome, that's your diabetes and things like that. A lot of autoimmune diseases, neurodegenerative diseases, and that's your Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and other things. Depression and anxiety, even though a lot of that can be linked to diet, there's a lot of cause and effect relationships that shows that stress and depression, stress and anxiety actually have a very, very close alignment. Generally speaking, we can't eliminate stress, but we can recover from it. Yeah, we have the ability a little bit to eliminate it. We can walk away. I'll talk about that too. But in a generic sense, we can recover from stress. It's difficult to eliminate it. That accumulation builds, and we just gradually piles up over time. So the goal is not necessarily to remove all the stress, but it's to build better resilience so we're not increasing that mound of stress that's in our body. Managing stress is probably your most powerful longevity tool. If you look at diet and stress and exercise and sleep and everything else, all of them have some level of power with regard to your longevity. But if you have to take like at one that you have control over, you have control over diet, you have control over your exercise, you have control over a lot. But stress affects so many aspects of your health and your aging processes that is probably one. If you wanted to take an immediate step and do something about that, is let's learn a little bit let's learn more about stress. How is it affecting you? How do you recognize it? What can you do about it? We'll talk about that here later on in the show. But that is probably the most powerful tool you have at your disposal is stress management. They tell you all the time, if you get stressed by something, move away from it. But if it's environmental stress, if it's smoke, if it's vibration, if it's noise, if it's heat, if it's cold, a lot of environmental stresses out there, radiation, cell phones, other things that are out there that put your monitors at your work. People, hard to move away from some people, especially if they're your boss or your wife or your kids. Toxins are so prevalent in the United States in so many different aspects, food and personal care products primarily. Illness. Sometimes we just can't recover. I just came back from a cruise. My wife and I came down with influenza A. Never had flu in my life, but I go out there and I guess a cruise with 5,000 of my closest friends is kind of like a petri dish for disease. And if our immune systems aren't strong enough, now, did I catch it on the boat? Did I catch it on an airplane? Did I catch it at the terminal? I have no idea, but I caught it and I brought it home. And it's one of those things. I think I'm about 95% over it, but it's a lot of things cause it. And illness is one that creates stress in the body. We get fatigued, brain fog, a lot of things. But sometimes we can't get away from our boss. We can't get away from our wife. We have to let it go. Two things real quickly. Number one, I was at a church retreat many years ago, probably 20 years ago, maybe more. And the guy up there speaking was talking about, he said, take your hand out. And he says, I know all of you, there's maybe even people here in this parish that piss you off. He said, but I know whether they're in your family or they're at work, write the name down on your hand with your finger, write the name down. So I'm just going to pick a name at general, Gertrude. Don't know any Gertrudes. So Gertie, I write down Gertrude. He says, look at that. Think about who that person is, how they affect you. And then just take and throw it away. Just watch it go into the air like smoke and evaporate. Well, I did that and didn't think much of it. Well, at that point in time, one of the people that had really, really irritated me was my wife's boss. I didn't have to live with that, but I had to live with my wife. And so she would bring home her stress and share it with me. And I'm thinking to myself, what an idiot for a boss. And so anytime I bump into her or we go to work, I pick up her. Anyway, I'd see her and I get irritated. I try to keep it in, but I could feel it in my body. Just it bothered me. And so I wrote her name on my hand. I let it go. And it wasn't 2 weeks later, there was something at a church somewhere else that I don't know if somebody died or what, I think it was a death. And so we walking into church and she's there. And I noticed, I expected my reaction to be a little bit more than what, but I was calm. I'm thinking to myself, whoa, maybe that really works. And so then I started doing that for other people. And sure enough, it worked, whether it was a coworker or whoever, a relative. It works. Let it go. Well, let's back up 10 years from now, 2016. My wife got the all clear from her oncologist. She had breast cancer. She had lumpectomy, chemotherapy, radiation therapy. And so we practiced walking for about a year. We walked the Camino de Santiago. So take a military flight over to Spain, take trains literally up to France. And we walk over the Pyrenees Mountains. And on the first day one, my wife is there for Thanksgiving for literally a full total recovery from the cancer she had. And I'm saying, this is my let it go tour. Anything that happens, no matter what it is, I'm going to let it go. And so that first day was probably the absolute worst day of my life in memory. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. And it was a major, major, major bad day. But it was not bad enough to quit. But it was bad enough to say, hey, that ranks up there in the top 10 easily. And so, but every time something happened, I let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Red, let it go. And then sometimes I have to say, Red O'Laughlin, let it go. And the mere fact that you're telling yourself that, you're saying it out loud, you're emphasizing, you're reinforcing it. It's an ability to let stress go because you're recognizing, yeah, I'm stressed out because of this and this and this. And yeah, I am going to write a book on it. I'll describe that first day in detail. But you let it go, it's gone. Most of it's gone. So, but there's many ways to reset our body's stress biology. And just looking at a few of them, there's a thing called autonomic nervous system regulation. Breathing, smiling, laughing. They reset our body's autonomic nervous system. Slow breathing stimulates our parasympathetic nervous system. It lowers cortisol, a stress hormone. It reduces our heart rate. It lowers our emotions. For some people, inhaling and exhaling at certain rates. They have a breathing exercise called 4x6. Go to YouTube, you can find it easily. Exercise, movement. Movement burns off stress hormones, particularly cortisol and adrenaline. It clears them out. Exercise uses up stress hormones. So a lot of people have a habit of exercising, whether it's running, lifting weights, walking, swimming, doesn't matter. The mere fact that they're moving, they're using up stress hormones. Stress prepares us for physical activity like walking and cycling because it gives us that that mental wealth or but our resistance exercises, any kind of movement, we just simple as 10 to 15, 20 minutes can actually regulate some of that stress chemistry that we have. So that turns out that stress from exercise is eliminated. So exercise is a double whammy on it. It's good for getting oxygen to the brain and other aspects of our health, but it also gets rid of stress. Sleep. Sleep repairs our bodies. If you're not sleeping well, your body's not being repaired right. And so if I'm stressed out, that sleep does have some level of impact on cleaning up the damage there. The neuroendocrine recovery. Sleep resets your brain and your hormone system's affected by stress. So that sleep is super critical. So the quality of your sleep determines the level of your stress damage rehabilitation. Chronic stress and poor sleep quality, they reinforce each other. So if you're stressed out all the time, you're burned out, you're not getting to sleep, you're pissed off at everything, and whether you're not, you're involved in drugs or alcohol or anything else, smoking, lots of things can come in there and start to really put a major hurt on your long-term health. Quality sleep is a powerful anti-stress intervention. Quality sleep supports cortisol rhythm, and cortisol is that stress hormone. You usually see it packed around our guts because that's where that extra 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 inches of fat accumulate because cortisol loves to store fat and it loves to store fat in areas of our body that have many more fat receptors, which is our belly. Quality sleep supports our memory processing, our immune function, our cellular repair. Social connections. We hear about this a lot with aging, people older. But social connections reduce stress chemistry just like sleep does. Oxytocin signaling, particularly you hug somebody, your oxytocin levels go up instantly. So you get a positive, and just being in a positive social circle with people, that interaction, that I call it social intercourse. Positive social interaction is a calming mechanism. It takes the strain off the brain. It triggers your oxytocin, are one of the happiness things. It reduces cortisol, anxiety, inflammation. Isolation increases stress-related disease, particularly in aging. So you get somebody, their spouse passed away, they're 90 years of age, and they don't want to move out of their house. They want to stay by themselves, but they don't go out and do anything. Or they move into an assisted care place, but all they do is they spend all their time in the room. These are some of the worst things you can do. Isolation is a major aspect of our body, aging and disease. Um, what are you here on this earth for? Why are you here? Meaning and purpose buffer stress. In other words, it's a psychological resilience, and that's what we talked about here earlier. The fact that you can't get rid of it, but if you can improve your resilience to it, then you're not being affected by it by the same level. So having a purpose helps our brains interpret stress differently. So if we didn't have a purpose, boom, all that stuff hits us. But if we know why we're here, what's going on, a certain level of stress is expected. Okay, fine. Okay, no big deal. And so having a purpose, and some people know exactly what their purpose is. Other people, yeah, maybe kind of. But if you don't have one, not a bad idea to start giving some thought to it. Lots of sources out there to be able to assess that. Start with Google, start with AI, go to YouTube, lots and lots and lots of places to say, how can I find my purpose in life? And that sounds interesting. That may be mine. You work on it for a while. Okay, maybe it's not, but you can always go back and change it. A strong purpose in life lowers our stress reactivity. We know our brains interpret it differently. It improves our emotions, our regulation of those, and overall health. Stress is unavoidable, but it's optional. This chronic stress is optional. Quick story. I'm flying around Vietnam, and you hear, somebody, pilots get hit by a missile, and they're going, Mayday, 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 and they give you a lat along their heading, their altitude, airspeed, and somebody who's in a flaming aircraft crashing, and you sound just as positive and in control as possible, and because they were in control of their life in that cockpit of what was going on. Yet you hear other stories down the road somewhere else, and somebody screwing around, they're flying around, whether it's in a car or an airplane, and all of a sudden something happens and they're really, now their life is in jeopardy. And rather than, Mayday, 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 you hear something like, oh crap. And all of a sudden it's not the same in control. The situation is controlling them as opposed to the reverse. And so that stress, when you're in control of everything, you're expecting certain things. The engine flames out. Okay, fine. You know how to handle that because you've been in testing for that for all sorts of things. But when something happens and you're not in control, now we have a problem and stress is starting to take over. There are many options to control and manage your stress. Find one that works for you. I have one that I like a lot. It's called Emotional Freedom Techniques, EFT. And that's basically the tapping that you do on your body, and there's a certain mantra that goes with it. I like a guy named Brad Yates. If you go to YouTube, type in stress management, EFT, Brad Yates. I like him a lot. He has I like the way he does his presentations. And just do the same thing he's doing, say the same thing he's saying. And I find that a lot of things, especially when I used to traverse time zones, 6, 8, 10 time zones at a time, that time zone changes I could use EFT to recover from. So there are a lot of things in EFT. Losing weight. There have been people lose over 100 pounds of weight with nothing literally than EFT. But meditation, Tai Chi. Tai Chi is a very, very good one. Vagus nerve stimulation. I talked about that in one of my recent presentations. Cold water, sauna, heat, humming, smiling, laughing. Autophagy, one of my favorite topics. When your cells are overloaded with so much crap and junk and stuff that's not working, by fasting, you initiate an autophagy process in the body that allows your body to clean out the cells of all the garbage and trash that's in there and to recycle the stuff that needs recycling. So you're basically doing a cellular cleanse, but you need to fast for at least minimum of 24 hours to get it turned on, and optimally at least 72 hours to have the thing be fairly effective. So, again, something I talk about all the time. Chronic stress over time can shrink memory centers in your brain. Again, a direct relationship to neurodegenerative disease, Alzheimer's, etc. YouTube has many, many, many brain games and anti-stress exercises. Stress is around us. It affects us 24/7. It affects our hormones. It affects our immune system, our mitochondria. Again, you've heard me say many, many times, happy mitochondria, happy body, happy health. Because mitochondria, to me, I think is the absolute bottom level of where everything begins. Our DNA, our brain structure, stress affects so many other things in our body. But with today's presentation, we're talking about awareness of things. It leads to education. Maybe you might want to go learn something else. Maybe some of these brain games. Well, let me see what's out there. Maybe see what your purpose in life might be. But it leads to some level of action, which will lead to improvement. Become aware of what can affect you. Let's say that I'm on this thing here 6 hours a day, and there's a little timer on there. You can go in there and see how much time did I spend on Facebook, how much time did I spend whatever. And you take a look at that and see over time, are you spending too much time on something? Is it pissing you off when you read something about, doesn't matter who it is. There are things there that they affect us. And just because you're doing one level of stress management doesn't mean it's effective all the time. When I do EFT, I got to do it for a minimum of 8 minutes. I used to say, okay, fine, I do it, and it didn't work. I would come out of the gym and I say, okay, fine, I'm going to do it for 10 minutes. And I get my day planned out. I'm doing work today. Well, let me try it for 9 minutes. And then I found that 8 minutes for me seems to be about right. So there's certain things there. We can manage our stress. I use the term excellent as always when anybody, how are you, Red? Excellent as always. I learned a long time ago, just the mere fact that I'm saying that changes me. I had an old mentor, not an old, he was actually younger than me, but a while back, and he would say, excellent. He wouldn't always say as always, but he'd say excellent, sometimes as always. But and then my standard answer way back then was, how are you, Ed? Somewhat reasonable. That was my standard answer way back when, 20 years ago. But when I started saying excellent as always, I found out that it affects me mentally, because there was 1 or 2 days a year where I actually wasn't feeling 100%. And somebody, how are you? I said, oh, excellent as always. Just wrote. I would just, and I could feel something in my chest. I could feel in my shoulders. Whoa, that was a big one. And so I paid attention to that. And then again, something happened and I'm not feeling quite right. And I said that, and I could feel a change happen in my body. So the mere fact that you're talking to yourself, it listens. There are things we can do to help. Just like a simple thing. Somebody pisses you off at a red light because you get stuck with it and the other person got through. Smile, let it go. Smiling, there's a lot of things that happen with a smile. So start simple. Maybe just something as simple as smiling when things irritate you. I'm standing in line at the counter in my local Kroger store. I got my groceries there, and somebody's up there and they got everything. Oh, now, okay, I got to pay. So now they're hunting through their wallet or their purse or whatever, and they finally get it, and they don't know what. It's just, I'm sitting there and I'm, let it go, let it go, let it go. That situation should not affect me at all. Don't let it do it. So start simple and learn. And that's my final slide. Oh, how about that? I'm done a little bit early. Okay, so for a recall, stress is one of the major things that's going on in our lives. It's going to be a major portion of my book because it affects so many aspects of the hallmarks of health and the hallmarks of aging. Also affects, literally the pathways for which disease passes through the body. So if you can stop and slow things down at the cellular level in the body and eliminate that stress, where your body can make the necessary repairs 24/7, then that's probably a very, very, very good start to having a nice, long, healthy life. So my Aging Sucks book, again, is going to be out here in a couple, 3 months this summer, and I'll have some webinars to go with it to help people understand the book better. My next guest is Miles Spencer. He's been on my show before, and he'll be on the show called The Wise Ones, which just got flip-flopped today. So please join me in about 25 minutes for The Wise Ones, and I bid you adieu, and you have a whole wonderful day. Take care, y'all. Bye now.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Tracy Cram Perkins, a dementia caregiving survivor teaching how to balance care with peace of mind. #1 resource for dementia caregivers. It's the book Dementia Home Care: How to Prepare Before, During, and After. Over 17,000 copies sold of this must-have guide. And now a testimonial from Tracy Smith.
If I was to describe this book to someone who is going through a similar situation, I would underscore how important it is to have some sort of a tool or a guidebook to help you through certain stages. And there's so many, it's such an unknown topic to the average person. And to have this as a reference is essential. It's going to help you get through it personally, as well as help your loved one manage.
To learn more, go to TracyCramPerkins.com. Tracy Cram Perkins is an award-winning author. She's also the host of Dementia Home Care television show. Watch it here on USA Global TV and Radio.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com. a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.